Welcome to the Beta Mini Book Marketing Advantage. I am AliNICOLE WOW, She Does It All. I'm also the creator of the platform, the Beta Projects Marketing, and I'm also the author of over 250 publications on Amazon, including a three-part series, Marketing with Mini Books Made Easy. And I am joined by the Genuine Leadership Power Enhancer, Gina Gardiner, who is also the author of several books, but several mini books. And she will be sharing her thoughts on the content that's going to be provided today, and also about her experience with working with me in this area. So, Gina, thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, it's my honor. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, you are most welcome. I believe we're going to have some great dialogue here, as we know that it's very important for others to publish, but also look at different ways of leveraging their opportunities, as publishers. And so I think this will be very helpful kind of mini training for our listeners today. So I'm going to jump right into sharing about the beta mini book marketing advantage. There are a lot of concepts around this that I have created, but I really just want to provide sort of an entry level to start to prime the pump and reposition the minds so that others are thinking in new ways about their publishing experience, and especially if they have not published before. So, my recommendation is to create a mini book or a mini book series to do a test of your topic while you're completing a bigger book project. So, creating smaller books that can actually be chapters from your bigger book project and starting to test them in the market. The advantage of this is it allows you to start getting feedback on whether or not your topic is one that your primary market is receptive or even responsive to. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about a publishing process that you can leverage. One of the things that I want to say is that a lot of times when people are trying to publish these bigger books and they want to go through traditional publishing um, companies, to do that, and that can get to be pretty, expensive depending on what package that you have, and you don't even know after before spending all this money if your book project is even going to be one that is really something that your audience is really attracted to, whether it be the title, the way it's presented. So there's a lot of different aspects and elements that people are blindsided to. But when you actually do sort of a beta in a mini book format, this creates a different experience. And this is a little bit different than when people are trying to publicize their bigger books, and they're like, well, I know I have an audience for it because I have people following and they're interested, in that. But if you can give them something prior to start seeding them with it, again, it creates a different experience. So a consideration is publishing a 5 to 8 or 6 by 9, 30 to 70 page mini book in your primary area of expertise, and doing this on Amazon's platform, Kindle Direct Publishing. Something that's really great, another advantage, is that once you do this, you can leverage your mini book or even the mini book series as lead magnets to your offerings and services, and also leverage them as marketing vehicles to land speaking engagements, but also initially building people up even to the bigger book project. This also allows you to be able to create some income, to start being able to generate some income through some sales, so that you can even support your other projects or just your other initiatives, leading up to whatever other launches that you have. So I have an article on LinkedIn that I will include in the description, and it's called Become a Self-Published Author with Kindle Direct Publishing within 24 to 72 hours. And it practically provides everything you need for setting up a free KDP account, and even how to set your document up. And it has just a few other benefits to that. And since it's free to publish with KDP, creating these 2 to 3 mini book series, or even if it's just one, publication, from a chapter or chapters, as I mentioned, it will allow you to make income and be able to start making an impact and adding value to the marketplace without delaying, putting that value out into the market while you're working on your bigger book. So that's, a high level, advantage. I find that this process often produces a very different experience, and the shifting of the project dynamics often start to expand into something better than the original conception, of an idea. And that's why it's actually good to do these beta projects in the mini book formats as you're leading up to the bigger um, book. I will share an example of mine because I've done this several times, but even in one of my more recent projects, is that the bigger book that I was actually starting to create the smaller versions of them to do, not just beta, it's just something that I do because I break a lot of my bigger book projects up into mini books anyway. But I was going to start leveraging those because they build up a better attraction to this overall arching theme of the main publication that I want to put out. But recently, I discovered that actually my main publication is actually going to be a mini book within another bigger book. And so that's why having this process of creating 1 to 2 to 3, because I had already 3 mini books that were going to come out, and then the bigger one. And all those are chapters within the bigger one. But as I said, things have expanded and shifted to where um, that actually is just going to be a smaller book now within a larger publication. So I'm really excited, about that. So I want to say also, or give another recommendation, is you can consider creating a 3 to 5 part blog series on Tumblr. I am a huge fan of Tumblr. And this particular platform can feature some excerpts from your publication, and also you starting to share about the forthcoming, bigger book. You can also leverage this also to lead into other related products, and components. But after you create the series, you start to leverage this for marketing. And you can also consider doing a blog tour and get some media features to put on there that lead into your bigger book, or as I mentioned before, other special offers. So that's just a way that you can start positioning with a little bit of marketing. And I tell you, you would be amazed at how just one beta mini book, or a mini book series, and even a Tumblr series platform, what that could do for your forthcoming endeavors. So those are just a few of the advantages of being able to test your publication or get some feedback, or leverage this experience so that you just can continue, expanding, even if you're not trying to get feedback. But it is just a good way to release mini books leading up to the bigger book. And also, I will throw this in as well, is that you don't actually have to advertise that there's a bigger book coming, because some may think, well, why would I be buying this in segments if it's going to be a one book eventually? But the thing about the mini books is that they will provide a different component than when they are chapters in the other book, because they'll be very targeted in terms of there may be action pages or things that have people working specifically on that chapter. And honestly, the way that the new consumer needs to be digesting, or is even more interested in digesting for a maximum benefit of the content, is sometimes to take it in the little chunks. And then the series of mini books, if you decide to do that, then like I said, then it's syncing up to a bigger book project, or it may turn into a signature talk. So this is a very transformative and evolutionary process. And my invitation to others is just to start engaging it, even if you're doing it as a beta type of initiative, but it could take on a completely different experience. So, Gina, I would love to hear your thoughts and your wisdom, around this, because you've recently been doing the smaller book projects, and you've been your authorship, has been very vast, and now you are more concentrated on some of the smaller content, publications, and leveraging them in different ways. So I would definitely love to hear any of your thoughts around what was shared, and then just your wisdom of your own experience.
Thank you. I've written several full-length books before I started with the new style of mini books. And there are a number of things that spring to mind. One is, in terms of, as you write any book, you deepen your own thinking around the topic,
Yes,
and through that
yes.
you grow. And for me, a big part of that has been about exploring, identifying who the mini book was for,
Mm-hmm,
and thinking, if I had them in the same room as me,
mm-hmm.
what would be the principles, the strategies, the information that I would want to share with them?
Yes.
And I also recognize that we live in an age where information overload is
Mm-hmm.
rife, and people very often haven't got time to listen to a whole book. And they certainly don't want stuff that they've already grown out of, or that they haven't yet grown into. So it seems to me that the book, at a personal level, you're able to grow and share
Mm-hmm.
your development. But in terms of the person who's receiving it, you can target it. And
Yes.
then instead of putting it all in one book,
Mm-hmm.
then you create a second book, which is for people who have digested the information and the growth of the first book.
Yes.
Now you've had your hors d'oeuvre, now we're going to
Mm-hmm.
serve up. So it's a taster menu rather
Mm-hmm.
than having a big meal. And I think
Yes.
people can actually absorb and enjoy in a very different way than if they're
Mm-hmm.
going for the big book. You're putting
Right.
it to them in bite-sized, manageable, digestible chunks that are
Mm-hmm.
very focused at where they are. You then
Yep.
grow, you
Mm-hmm.
provide the next one. And for me, out of my books have then come VIP
That's right.
intensives in a box, and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
it's crystallized my thinking, it's grown my development, it's grown my capacity to identify the real nub, the real essence,
Yes. Yes.
more efficiently and effectively. But for
Mm-hmm.
the receiver, it's bite-sized, manageable chunks that don't take a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time to read, couple of hours to read. But all of my books then give people the tools to actually do the exploration for themselves. And that's the other thing I think that often gets neglected.
Mm-hmm.
For me, one of the shifts, if you like, is rather than going from a book where you give them all of the information and then off they go. And there may, my other books, there's activities to do.
Yes.
But
Yes.
in the mini books, these are intentional workbooks and journals. So the
Mm-hmm.
principles
Yes.
are shared and shared easily. And
Mm-hmm.
then giving people a diet of bite-sized activities to do that will then embed that principle, embed that
Right.
knowledge before
Mm-hmm.
they move on. So I think it has an expansion in terms of what it does for the people who are on the receiving end.
Absolutely.
And there's a place for both, of course.
Right.
And the last thing that it does is I, like many people, I've got expertise on a range of topics, and doing the mini books enables me to share my knowledge and experience and expertise in a broader way more easily. If it was a big book for each one, well, a book would take me 6 months to a year to write.
Right. Yeah.
What I've found is that, you know, because it's being done amongst all of the other things, I've been publishing roughly one a month.
Yeah. Right. Right. Thank you so much for sharing on it, because everything you shared is so rich. And you know, the beauty of this process is that, much to all of what you stated in terms of the expansion and how it allows you, to do more, and being in that there is this era of information overload. And one of the primary goals with these types of publications is not to inundate people with too much information, but to provide trigger mechanics and the guidance that evokes and stimulates their own inner wisdom. And it is a very different, type of experience. And going back to leveraging this type of experience, kind of in a beta um, marketing way, is that, let's say, for instance, that you have the many books that you've published so far that are relatively on the same, topic, and there was the initial goal to have this more expansive book, or even if not, at some point you could think of combining them as a curriculum and, tweaking them, a little bit differently. But the beautiful thing about this process is that it gets people into action, and it gets them to thinking, wow, I actually don't have to um, publish this big book first. I can actually just do it in segments. And then if I want to still publish it as a big book, then I can, cohesive work. But this gets people out of the delays and the stalling, and gets them into the marketing mode. Because one of the things that we know as it relates to marketing, marketing is about momentum. And so a lot of times people will publish books and they'll put them out there, and they actually haven't done the marketing momentum to lead up in a very unique way. And when I say a very unique way, not just, okay, I have this book that's coming out, it's going to be coming out on this particular day, and people, looking forward to what seems to be this main event. But the mini books and the experiences created with the mini books is like leading up to the bigger thing. But ultimately, what we'll find is that as we hear that it's all about the journey, not the destination, is that it just all becomes one experience where people actually are falling in love with what's coming next, what's coming next, what's coming next. And it's not so much about ending up at this specific thing. And that's why, I said initially that sometimes what happens is that um, you start this process and you think you're going to be launching this bigger book project, and it may be that that bigger book project then becomes a mini book itself and has a more expansive publication that's coming out, or a signature talk, a program. It could turn into something different, but it is getting into the beta mode, beta projects, and but starting to test them. Because if you start putting them out and doing some marketing, getting some creative marketing and building the momentum up, then ultimately you will then have a following that can then be uh, looking for different elements, that's coming out, from you, from a particular initiative. So it really is about multiplying, and that's the advantage, of this process, is creating many MINI ways to abundance for yourself and for your audience through, this type of experience. And so, Gina, I loved everything that you shared, because you are speaking, from your own experience. And I also want to bring up that one of your mini books also derived out of a project that was going to be, um, well, we weren't even calling it so much of a bigger book project. It was just another project that was going to be book project that you were going to be doing. And we figured that was going to be kind of in a mini book format too. But then in your process of the creation, then it was like, no, let's take this particular part out and make it a book itself. And then you can come back to completing, the other version, and which that other version is, probably expanded and evolved into something, else at this point too, and may not initially jump off the way that um, the other one was. But the thing is just to get into, the motion. But before we get ready to wrap up, Gina, I want to hear your thoughts just around what you feel are the advantages of using this process for beta book marketing, for the mini book marketing. Um, what do you feel are the advantages? I know I've shared some, and you can certainly highlight anything I've shared, but I definitely would love to hear just your thoughts around the marketing aspect with that.
I think that it gives you a breadth of opportunity that when you write conventionally, then the number of books, the themes that you can focus on, it's a very much a deep dive. Whereas when you do mini books, then you have the capacity to share your expertise and experience in a broader way, because
Yes.
you are giving in insights, a window into it, the taster.
Yes.
So that's one advantage. The second is that through that process, you create the momentum as you talk about, and that's momentum not only for the reader, but also, I think, very significantly, the momentum for yourself in terms of moving your thinking, your vibration, your being forward, so that you are then able to operate at a different level than you were before. And that's certainly been true in terms of my series of harnessing your power as an empath, step into your power, your genuine power as an empath, and about to embark on the third level of that. And I don't see that ever, the iteration can go on and on. If you are busy, if you've got, if you're working, many people I've met have said, I want to write a book, but it's too difficult. I haven't got time. Creating these mini books is something that can be done in conjunction with your general living. It doesn't take over your life, and you can do it efficiently and effectively. And I've done one a month, but I've done that on top of doing a whole range of other things. If you decided to get on with it, you could get it done in a much shorter time.
Absolutely.
It depends on how much time you focus on it. It's easy to do. You can do it on KDP. It's very straightforward. It doesn't cost you anything, whereas so many people who are offering to help you write a book, they charge a huge fee. And the whole thing becomes very expensive in terms of your time and also your money. And when you go to someone and you say, I'm an author on Amazon, here's my book, your credibility with other people goes through the roof, because there are so many people who say, well, I'd like to write a book, but I can't do it, it's too difficult. And you don't have to bust the myth actually that it's that easy, but just that you are a published author, and that gives you that status and credibility. So for me, it opens the door of possibility. You've said, people will buy the book, then that opens up the opportunity to other products. For me, it's a gateway, and it's a gateway to many different paths. You choose which path, you choose how quickly you want to go, but ultimately, the momentum that moves you forward is really, really important.
Absolutely. Well stated. And that is huge and tremendous as it relates to, again, the marketing, because that's where you need the momentum in terms of your audience. But something that Gina pointed out that's very important is that as you're doing this, it does create the momentum for you, and that's where the expansiveness, takes place. And this is a very easy format. That's why there's advantages to getting involved in a process, such as this. And also, if you would like to learn more about how you can work with Gina and I on your beta mini book projects, and we have information in the description box. And also, too, I'll have information in the description box on how you can explore my publication series on marketing, with mini books made easy. And then you'll also have some information that you can learn about Gina, and her author's page will be in the description as well. So, Gina, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me to share this value with others, because we know it's so important. And before we close out, would you like to share any final words of encouragement and empowerment?
I would say, listen, don't delay. If you have experience, expertise, something that you would like to share with the world, that you want to create that momentum, then get on with it. It doesn't have to be difficult. You can start and create it very easily. Just think about the person that you would want to share it with, and what are the key points that you want to make. We all try and overcomplicate it. So 3 to 5 points that
Yes.
you'd like to make, and then activities that would help people embed that. And it is actually as simple as that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gina. I always appreciate you. And of course, I love collaborating with you, co consulting, and advising you as well.
Well, it's come through you that I have learnt this as a way forward. And I would say to people, it is much easier than you think it is. You've just got to be in that space and give yourself permission to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. She said the key phrase, it is the way forward, and it is the way forward into the newer paradigms and more up-level trajectories that you want to start leveraging practices such as these, because they are smarter practices, and you're going to find that everything that you do moving forward just continues to be the smarter advantage for you to leverage as a whole, no matter what you're doing. But this particular process, again, can take your brand and your business, and whether you're a new author or you are a seasoned author, just as Gina, is a seasoned author, multi number one international bestsellers. She's got several publications. And again, going to have a link to her author's page within the description, so you can see um, the variety of publications that she has. And then, again, some of those are some of the mini books that are just the shorter, publications. It's just a better way of doing things. And again, leveraging it for marketing, building up your credibility for sure. Those are the advantages. So I just want to thank everyone who took time to be able to take in what we shared today. Gina and I are definitely looking forward to bringing you more trainings that can help to support you in this bigger shift that's taking place. We want to see you succeed on levels like never before, and we appreciate you showing up to do your due diligence to make a difference. And we pray that all will be well with you until we resume with you with another training.